So this is Michael Shore with the Global Sustainability Network of the SIBF and Academies. And we are doing our Spotlight series on Jeff Bednar and his business, Profound Micro, remind me the name again?
Profound Microfarms and Profound Foods.
Okay, Profound Microfarms and Profound Foods. So Jeff is definitely a sustainable businessman, a sustainable entrepreneur, and I'm excited to talk to you. So tell us about your business. Tell us about Profound Microfarms.
Yeah, so Profound Microfarms we founded about 4 years ago, and we've really only been in business for a little bit less than 2 years, about 19 months. And essentially what we are is we're a very dense hydroponic greenhouse controlled environment business growing leafy greens for chefs in Dallas. So we've got about 150 varieties of leafy greens, culinary herbs, edible flowers, and microgreens. And we provide 67 restaurants in Dallas with produce.
Okay, and that I imagine that keeps you pretty busy.
Yep, pretty busy. Yep. So we've got about 17,000 square feet of greenhouses now, and we've got 6 full-time employees and 4 part-time employees.
And is this a growing operation still?
Yeah, we're very much growing. So we've only, like I said, we've been less than 2 years. So about 20 months ago, we got involved with selling to chefs. And before that, we were kind of still learning and building and growing the structures and the systems. And then about 20 months ago, we started working with a couple of chefs and found out how much fun that was. And in that 20 months, we've gone from, 2 chefs to 67. So it's been kind of crazy growing. And there's a lot of systems, infrastructure we've been putting in place. And that's kind of where the next company, Profound Foods, our distribution company, came in.
Okay. And so tell us about that company.
Yeah, so that was, we launched that December 1st of last year. So a little over 6 months in business now. And what we do with that one is that's a food hub. So we were already selling to all these chefs, and we started to find a problem in the marketplace where chefs were not buying from a lot of local farms. And farmers wanted to sell to chefs, but the two of them didn't really know how to work together. And that was kind of something that we had cracked the nut on. So we started a food hub with me and another farmer to actually bring more of the local products to these chefs. So we have an online ordering system. We have reefer trucks and a whole delivery model, an invoicing model that works kind of for all parties involved. So it's a little bit different than a traditional distributor. And now we have 17 farms. So we've got beef, chicken, pork, cheese, and then leafy greens, soil grown crops, and a bunch of stuff like that. So we launched December 1st. We've already done over $200,000 in sales. So it's been pretty exciting because that's $200,000 that is locally grown, staying in our community, and it's all sustainable producers.
Wow. So I mean, obviously this is a business that's good for local farmers, good for local economy, and good for the environment.
Yeah.
And are you creating a model that you think you would take to another community beyond Dallas, or is your aspirations only local?
We're big fans of Dallas. This is the 4th largest metroplex in the country. So there's a phenomenal opportunity to grow here, and there's nobody else doing anything like what we're doing. So there's a big opportunity for us to grow here, but more importantly, we're creating a model that could be duplicated. And as part of that, there could be a Profound Foods in DC. And essentially we could hand them a model saying, here's online software, here's the vans you need, here's how you build relationships with the farmers, here's how you build relationships with chefs. And so there's an opportunity to grow nationally, and that's, honestly, probably a couple of years out.
Okay. Wow. Fantastic. So congratulations for getting this far and for cracking the nut. And tell us where the idea came from for you to get involved in local sustainable agriculture and connecting with chefs.
Yeah, so 4 years or almost 5 years ago now, I had a real estate company, and we were buying and selling houses, and I was pretty successful at that. And I enjoyed it, but at the end of the day, the real estate was just buy as low as you could buy, sell as high as you could sell, and so there wasn't a lot of us doing good in the community and really building a stronger community. So when I sold my half of that business, I was looking at what was going to be our next entrepreneurial venture. And at the same time, we had 2 young daughters, so they were like 3 and 5. And so we were thinking about, what kind of planet do we want them to grow up on? We started watching a bunch of documentaries about, all of the pollution that's happening and our oceans acidifying and, runoff from agricultural stuff. So that side there had us thinking about how do we create a business that's more environmentally sustainable. And at the same time, I was going through some health issues. I have a connective tissue disorder called Marfan syndrome. And so I knew that I was going to need a heart surgery. And I ended up having the heart surgery at 36, 2 years ago. And it was an aortic valve deal. So they, cracked the chest open. And so there was a lot of talk about how do we live healthier, and how do we, how am I going to be around for my kids to grow up, and then what kind of planet do we want them to grow up on? And this is where agriculture all kind of came to a head of like, oh, here's how we can fix, our number one polluter right now is agriculture. And a lot of it is, on the animal side, but that's the biggest, problem we have with water usage and runoff and, our resource usage. And then at the same time, the food that we're getting from our industrial system of agriculture right now is not nutrient dense. It's not awesome, and it pollutes the environment. So I could see that these problems were completely unsustainable, and that if we needed to make some traction on it. So that's where we started researching, like, well, how do we do that? So we came across some different technologies with hydroponics and then aquaponics, and started looking at, well, how do we create a business around that? Well, the problem was I had never actually grown anything before. I'd never had a house plant. I didn't grow up on a farm. I had like zero experience. So as we're researching this property that was a mile away from where we lived came up for sale, and it had the greenhouse structures already on it. And we thought, hey, we could buy this. It's less than our current mortgage. We just have to downsize from a big 5-bedroom house into a small 1-bedroom house. And if we did that, our bills would go down such that we could spend a couple of years figuring out how to grow. So it took me about 2.5 years to actually learn how to grow, learn how to do systems. Built with me and a group of volunteers and friends, we built the whole farm over those 2 years. And there was just this awesome learning opportunity. I became a master gardener, a permaculturist, and just really built this awesome community of people together to help us grow this business. And when we finally launched the chefs, it just blew up. We were sold out in 4 months, and then we kept building systems and adding on and adding on. So. Wow. And then
finish up, please.
I was going to say the second company, Profound Foods, in April of last year, me and my buddy Nelson I was delivering, and we were at this farm to table symposium, and he said he had one delivery in Dallas for $60, and he was going to have to drive for 2.5 hours to make $60. And I said, well, I'm already going to that restaurant. Let me just take your stuff with me. And so he dropped it at my farm, which is only about 30 minutes, and I drove it into Dallas for him. And then he did it for me a couple of times later, and we kind of found this fun model of helping each other. So the tagline for our Profound Foods company is farmers helping farmers serve chefs. So we just figured out there's this cool model, and then I had heard about this USDA grant money out there to help build stronger food economies. So in April, we put in a grant application with the USDA, and heard back in October that we were actually awarded $500,000 over the next 3 years to help us build this stronger food economy, it's super cool, and it pays for our reefer trucks and our software, and was really the jump start we needed to start growing the company.
Wow. So that's an amazing story. And it's interesting to me that there wasn't just this eureka moment, that you had these health issues and the sustainability ethic, and you kind of grinded through and researched what the right business would be. Yeah. As opposed to just a light bulb going off that some founders, the story that some founders tell.
Yeah, this is definitely not a light bulb. This is slow. So we started off with aquaponics, and that's where you take raising fish or aquaculture, and then you combine that with hydroponics. So the fish produce the nutrients for the plants. And we found out over the course of about 2 years that hydroponics, when you're just simply adding nutrients and only managing one ecosystem, is so much more efficient. So we kind of switched the whole business model over and started doing that. And, honestly, when I got into farming, I thought we were going to do a direct-to-consumer value-added company. So we were going to make salads on a subscription basis and sell them to individuals, until I met chefs. And then the chefs came in, and they were so much fun to work with, and it was exciting watching them take our stuff, putting it on plates, and they were buying kind of quantities that made sense for us to be able to grow the company and start hiring people. And so that was never designed for chefs until we started working with them, and then we built a model around that. It was never designed around hydroponics until we figured that out and started going that way. So okay. There's been a lot of kind of fun detours, and we've got several other projects planned in the future that are similar in the same space, but are nothing to do with the farm or the distribution company.
Right. Okay. Willing to pivot as you get to know your market, know your market better. And so tell us about some of your recent struggles or the biggest challenges that you have in managing these growing businesses and keeping things on track.
So right now we have some really big struggles. So number one is I'm a sales and marketing guy, and that's where I'm best at. That's what I like doing. I like talking to people. And what I'm not great at is implementing systems. So now we've got all these employees. We've got this whole amazing team together. We have customers that want product, and we've got stuff that we're growing. But the hard part is we don't really have any SOPs. So the employees get here, and it's like, okay, cool. Today you're going to do this, and you're going to do this, and that was the meeting I was just in before our call. Is trying to get some of those structures in place now. And now that we're kind of rapidly growing, the structures are changing quickly. And trying to really set up something that works for the customers and all of our farmers and our employees on the farm side. So that's probably my single biggest struggle right now is the project management and implementing systems.
And I think lots of young companies go through that. And so, are you taking on that role of setting up the systems, or is there somebody else on your team who's really good at that is building those structures?
I'm very clear with what I'm good at, what I'm not good at, and what I've been able to do has got us this far. And it's great and it's working, but it's not working nearly. It's not a well-oiled machine by any means. So we've got a couple of different people that have come on recently to help us put in those systems. And like this week or next week, we're getting started with actually going through and documenting the process. So then we can figure out how to improve the process and then create a manual for the employees on how to do their jobs and actually writing more of the job descriptions and stuff like that. At the same time, what I'm most worried about is maintaining our culture. So, we've got this amazing team of all ages of people. But there's and huge demand for people to work for it. If they come on board, we don't know exactly what to tell them to do right now. So that's part of our big, how do we create these things so they can be empowered, and then also give all of the individuals the opportunity to kind of write their own job description and write their own future inside of our companies.
And so when you get to the place where you have all these systems built and then you think you have a replicable model, you said you might contemplate taking what you have in Dallas and taking it to another community and even taking it nationally. And so do you imagine that you would be raising capital at that point to do that? And if so, have you started to research that, or that's a project down the road?
So the two different companies, right? So with Profound Microfarms, we're on 2 acres and we've got 17,000 square feet of greenhouses. So we're sold out every single week. We've been sold out for months and months. And what's really next for us there is my next door neighbor has a flower farm where he grows for the Dallas Arboretum, and it's all ornamentals, but he's got about 40,000 square feet of greenhouses. And so there's an opportunity if he's looking to retire, we're looking to expand. It's right directly next door to our current property, and he's got about 8 acres. Wow. So it's a big deal. And to buy his property and to build out the systems we need is probably going to be around $2 million. So at that point, I think that we would be raising capital, and I'm kind of leaning more towards, finding partners in it than going the traditional bank route. And so that'll be a big expansion for us. And, we currently already have one of our farmers is kind of long story short, we have a lettuce farmer. And so we grow lettuce in our systems, a lot of leafy greens, but we're currently buying 80% of the lettuce we're growing. So if we could bring that back in-house and get a little bit better quality and better control over it, that money that we're getting there is already enough to pay for, payment on the new property. So there's a pretty clear opportunity there, and that's where we're going to be, looking at raising some funds in the future. And on the distribution side, that's more of a model that I would like to do, almost like a franchise where we can give them the model. I really don't want to go to DC or LA or something and spend my time away from the farm and away from family and all that to go set that up. But I would be willing to help somebody else do that and mentor and coach them through the process and then give them all the tools they need.
Okay. And then as a last question, it wasn't that long ago that you were in real estate, and you had an intention, but not even an idea. For other people, for other entrepreneurs or sustainable entrepreneurs that are starting out, what advice would you have for them to get them to help get them going?
Yeah, so 5 years ago, I did the first leadership academy with SIBF, and that totally changed my way of thinking about everything. We had just got the farm, and my intention was to spend a year writing a business plan. was like, I'll spend a year, I'm gonna take my time. And the real estate thing hadn't kind of worked out with my business partnership. And so I decided I was really gonna focus on that. And I did the Leadership Academy, and I met Dan Chapari. And Dan's like, listen, I haven't read a business plan in however long. So what you need to do is learn about lean business discovery and the lean business model. And so I kind of jumped in with Business Model Canvas and like really looking at customer discovery and asking all of these people questions and then giving them what they want. And so that's been a huge thing for us, is actually building market before we get there by simply asking a whole lot of questions. And then also we started really small and then grew as we had the market for it. And I think that that's, in my industry, in indoor ag or controlled environment agriculture, there's a lot of people dumping tens of millions or hundreds of millions of dollars into these huge facilities, but they're doing that before they actually have a market. And then they're going out of business, like left and right. There's a kind of a common thing that's happening in there. So I think that building the market before you build your sustainable business is one of the most important things you can do.
Wow. So this is, I've been fascinated with this interview, really hanging on every word that you said. I appreciate how honest and authentic you are, and that your vision in what you're creating. So congratulations. So anybody who's in the Dallas area, I hope they have a chance to eat some of your produce. And when you franchise and go nationally, for the rest of us, we can look for profound Microfarms and microfoods, and one day maybe it'll come to Asheville, where I live even. So anyway, it's been a pleasure to talk to you, Jeff, and I look forward to seeing you at a future event.
Cool. Thanks, man. See you soon.
Take care.